Today. We're going to wait a couple minutes to let everybody hop on for a second, make sure the gang's all here before we just get started. So, and give it a couple of minutes. Oh, let everybody hop on for a second. There we go. The gang's all here before we just get started. So, and give it a couple of minutes. Oh, I hear myself. Am I on? Yeah, I'm on. Cool. All right, no sound, no sound, no sound. Hoping, okay, sound is good now. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, April. Beautiful. We're gonna turn this down. Okay. 517, I feel like that's a pretty good number. So go ahead and get started. Alrighty, how's it going, everybody? So you might have seen me during the 6 o'clock show. If not, I'm here on Facebook Live to break down everything that's going on with this rain and snow as we get over these next about 24 to 48 hours. It's going to be a little bit of a messy one, but just starting with the simple stuff, as we get into tonight, we're going to see temperatures slowly drop down into the 40s. As we get into the nighttime, these colder temperatures when you wake up in the morning are going to be what make it possible for us to see that snow in those higher elevations. Lows tonight going to be sitting kind of around the upper 30s to the lower 40s. It's going to be these areas that are sitting in the 30s that have some of that colder air loft as well, which is going to make it possible for some of that snow to appear. Here in the valley, a lot of places also in the upper 30s getting towards the 40s, but that warmer air down in the valley is going to be what makes it just rain instead of snow like the rest of the region. But what we're seeing right now is a pocket of cold air coming along with this low pressure system. So as it travels up through the area, you're seeing this colder air work its way mostly into the mountains. As it passes on, it's going to bring that rotation along with it before it moves out of the way as we get into your Monday morning. Now, right now, we've been seeing some colder air really take over the entire region, but mostly the mountains is getting some of that below zero air. And unfortunately, it seems like the plateau was starting to warm up a little bit to start to look a bit more like the valley. So let's run through your Futurecast right now. As of right now, we're seeing some of this rain start to work its way into the southern parts of eastern Tennessee. But as we get further into the nighttime, it's going to start to encroach a little bit higher. You can see some of this pink here on the flip side of the mountains in North Carolina, because if you're already that high in elevation, you already have some of that colder air to kind of support what we're seeing right now, and that's what's going to make it possible to continue through the nighttime. But a system's going to move on through as we get into your Sunday morning. As we get kind of closer to noon, that's when we're going to see things really start to pick up. That's when some ice is going to be possible here in the plateau, and then continuing to grow here in the mountains as well. Going on until noon before that system moves out of the way. It stays just further to the east in the evening before completely moving out of the way as we get further into your Sunday night, heading into your Monday, before we see some much clearer conditions. But with all this snow coming in, there are two warnings that are in place. First, there's the winter weather advisory, mostly for areas up north. There's some in North Carolina, but mainly for parts of Kentucky and then southwestern Virginia, which it seems like a couple of counties have been released for that warning. That actually just got pushed back until about 7 a.m., and that's going to be continuing until midnight on Monday. Then we have the winter storm warning. That's going to be starting at midnight on Sunday, so tonight, going until midnight on Monday, so tomorrow night. And the reason that one's going to be staying at midnight is because some of those higher elevations, again, already have that colder air, which is going to make it possible for them to see snow through pretty much this entire stretch. But things aren't really going to start to get active until we get into the morning time. So let's just run through your Futurecast time. If we could go full screen really quick. So we're going to see this rain start to encroach the area as we get into your your Saturday evening. And then that's going to start to encroach upon the entire area as we continue further into the nighttime. But things are going to be kind of quieter in the night until we get further into the day. So that's when we see things really start to pick up during these overnight hours from Saturday into Sunday. You could sort of see some of that counterclockwise rotation coming in from the entire storm. That's because it's going to be traveling just to our south, so through Alabama and Georgia and then up the Carolinas. So going right around us, we can see the full rotation of that. You're waking up in the morning. If you're in the valley, it's going to be straight rain. It's going to be heavier at some times, especially as you get a little bit further south and a bit further west as well, it seems. And then you get into the plateau. That's where we see some of this snow possible. A bit of Cumberland County getting towards Crossville, a little bit of Roan as well, but just moving further south of Spring City. Then we get on the mountains on the flip side. You see a lot of this rain snow here right along the mountains, snow on the tip tops, but as you get further down into the foothills, that's when you see a little bit of rain and snow. We're not looking at much of a wintry mix. It's likely going to be rain or snow, but they could be possibly falling at the same time. Now, in a lot of regions that this is possible, we're not really looking at high accumulations because of the warmer temperatures, and we've already got a pretty warm ground because of the past couple of days that we've had. But again, with that counterclockwise rotation, a lot of this rain coming down from our north through the area, and then as it encounters some of those colder temperatures, that's when the rain and snow is going to pick up. You can see things really starting to blow up here along the entirety of the Smokies. This line starts to extend and push further back, so parts of Monroe and Blount and Sevier and Cock and even a bit of Hamlin counties as well. If you're along these foothills getting closer to the mountains, then it's going to become possible to see some of that ice, and the higher in elevation you go, the heavier some of that snow could get. Generally, areas over 3,000 feet are where we're looking at the highest possibility for accumulation, and then you get that mix as you get further down. Around 2,500 feet, you get into the plateau. That's when you can see closer to a trace or 2 inches. But continuing to move forward, we get into the Sunday afternoon, and then the plateau is in the clear. We see that rain pushing further east as the system continues to move up the eastern seaboard. Still some of that snow possible as we get into the afternoon, but then it really starts to clear out as we get into dinner time on Sunday. So at that point, really only the furthest tip of eastern Tennessee is going to be seeing some of that rain and some of that snow at that point before it continues to move out as we get into Sunday night, and then keeping clear with just a couple of clouds entering the forecast as we get into your Monday morning. Now, in terms of snowfall, again, we're going to see the highest totals in the mountains, but it's going to be slow to start until we get into the early morning of Sunday. You see things really blow up after we get past around 7 a.m. on Sunday, upwards of 8 inches. At our highest elevations, upwards of 5,000 feet. When you get into the mountains, looking from 3 to 8 inches of snow when you get further into this region, just lying along the edge of the mountains. And then you get into the plateau where we could see anywhere from a trace to 2 inches. It seems like this model in particular has taken away some of the snow chances in the northern plateau, like Morgan, Scott, and Campbell counties, but keeps some of that further south as you get into counties like Cumberland and Roane and a little bit of Ray as well. But you guys could see anywhere from a trace to 2 inches of snow when it comes to accumulation. Now, when it comes to rainfall, we could be seeing anywhere from 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches. Again, kind of like how we saw those snow chances kind of fall back in the northern plateau, this is where we're seeing some of the lightest rain. And I think part of that is because, again, we're seeing the system track from Alabama and Georgia and then around the seaboard, then getting into the Carolinas and pushing into our region. So that gets everybody in the Southern Valley and Upper East Tennessee and kind of leaves them out. So this is where we see some of those lower totals, but as you get closer to the mountains, that's when we get closer to that 1.5 inches. You see a little bit of purple that could be getting upwards of 2 inches, and that partly could be because of some of that snow. Depending on how wet of a snow it is, it could have more value in terms of how much rainfall it gives. But just a quick look forward into the rest of the week, this is not the only rain that we're going to see. There's actually going to be another system coming as we get into about Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday in particular is going to be a rainy day. Wednesday showing slightly lesser chances, but Tuesday is going to be leading into your Wednesday, and we could be seeing upwards of 3 inches, maybe a little bit more. And again, it seems like those higher totals seem to be staying further south along the mountains, getting into southeastern Tennessee, and those lighter totals closer to 2 inches as you get further into the plateau. But take a look at the 7-day forecast really quick. I'm going to check some questions in a little bit, but we've got temperatures after this rain snow event that we're going to see on your Sunday. Temperatures rising up to nearly 70 degrees by the time we get to Thursday before we drop back down into the 40s as we get into next weekend. Your Tuesday night is going to show some light rain chances when it comes to Valentine's Day. So after dinner time, make sure you have a rain jacket or something on you to keep yourselves dry. But I'm going to take a second to look at these questions, see if we've gotten anything new. Say again? We can stay here for now. Let's see. Hello. We've got Campbell County. Okay, I'm seeing some reports that we've got rain in Philadelphia, rain in Asheville, about 48 degrees, light rain in Rockford. Alrighty, so all those areas, we're starting to see that rain continue to move further north. Let me actually just jump back to the radar really quick. Let's see. what we are looking at right now. So this is one type of radar where it's showing a very wide swath of some of that rain kind of taking over the entire region. Actually, Diamond, yeah, let's just switch to a full screen for right now. So this is kind of showing a very wide swath of the rain happening over the entire area. You can already see some of that ice starting to appear in parts of Bryson City, getting further into Northern Carolina, and right along the border where those mountaintops are, we're already seeing some of that ice and snow. And again, that's because they have already those colder temperatures that high up in elevation. So that could continue for them as we get into the nighttime. But kind of switching to a higher definition radar, it kind of looks kind of with a finer edge, with a fine tune to it. We're seeing we're not getting as much rain as it seems. We've got the storm starting to already travel into the region, but a lot of that rain seems to be very, very light and not actually making it to the ground. There's a dry layer kind of somewhere in the middle of our atmosphere, but a lot of it is starting to get colder again as we get into the nighttime. So let me double check. I ain't got any questions. Lenoir City and Campbell County. You guys were asking about snow. So, excuse me. I'm going to hit you with these snow totals again. We're going to jump to the end of that. Lenoir City, just getting further south around here. You guys in the valley, we're not looking at any snow. So basically anywhere getting into the valley, I'd say kind of getting up towards Tazewell, a bit of Rogersville, but the northern valley could see a little bit of a rain snow mix only because they have some of those colder temperatures and the system is introducing itself into Tennessee. So you could see a couple of flakes come along with this rain, but it's not going to be high accumulations or full on snow like we're going to be seeing in the mountains. Now, someone asked about Campbell County. That is also starting to look somewhat light. You still have the opportunity to see anywhere from trace to anywhere between a trace and 2 inches, but this model in particular seems to be pulling those rain chances or those snow chances away from the plateau. A lot of models actually have been trending to slightly warmer temperatures out there on the west side. We really see that pocket of cold air. Let me actually flip back to that really quick. You can really see this pocket of cold air as it comes into the region. It doesn't actually stretch very far. You can see it take over the entire mountainous area, getting into upper East Tennessee and a little bit of the valley as well, but it doesn't quite stretch all the way through to the plateau. And because of that, we might not actually see quite as much snow in the plateau as maybe we were originally seeing. So let me flip back to the snow forecast. Basically, all of these counties along the mountain, so getting into Monroe and Blount and Sevier and Cott counties, even Hamblin as well, that's where we're going to see some of these snow totals. Getting into the mountains, that's where things are going to get heavy, upwards of 8 inches at the highest mountaintops. Anywhere over 3,000 feet is who this applies to. Now, as you get down into the foothills, that's when we could see some lighter snow totals, some very light accumulations, and that's when we see rain start to mix as well, because that's when you see temperatures warming as you come down the valley and lower in elevation as well. So if you're along here in the foothills, you could see a couple flakes, some light accumulations as well, but as you get deeper into these counties, that's when you're going to be in the valley. That's when we come down to the lower elevation, and that's where things transition from snow to just rain that we're going to be seeing, and it will be somewhat moderate, maybe a couple of heavy spots at times. Over here on the west side, you get into the plateau, a little bit of Cumberland County, a little bit getting into Ray County, but really not quite, only because that's going to be sticking a little bit further into the valley. Morgan and Scott and Campbell counties, those are starting to look a little bit lighter. Like I said, some of the snow totals have been taken away from the plateau because we're seeing some slightly warmer temperatures in that area. So it's still possible for you to see anywhere from a trace to 2 inches, and it's kind of likely that you will see a couple of flakes because it will be colder up there, but it looks like your precip is going to be a little bit further on the rain side this time around. And double check I don't have anything new. We've got Kodak, wind chills. Hello, Teresa from Morristown. Yes, unfortunately, Vicky, I was also hoping for snow for the valley. Unfortunately, I'm a big snow fan myself as well. I come from Maryland, and I remember growing up, we had a couple really big snow events. You get out of school for a week, and that just really has not happened this time around in Tennessee. We've had some very warm temperatures as of late, and really over this entire winter, and because of that, every time we've gotten precip come through, it's just been way too warm. For much of the month of January, we were sitting in the 50s. Right now in February, we've been seeing a lot of days in the 50s, so when these systems do come by, they're just not really bringing that push or as much Arctic air that is going to be dropping our temperatures as much as we have seen. That's kind of been a pattern for a lot of the area. But somebody asked about wind chills. Let me take a look for that. Okay, So as we get into the morning time, we're going to see a greater difference in wind chill as we get all the way through. As of right now, things are pretty spot on, pretty similar. You'd be definitely lose a couple of degrees and looking anywhere around like 5 degrees as we get into the nighttime. But as those temperatures as the temperatures stay a little bit more consistent, we see wind chill start to drop things down. They could be getting upwards of 10 to 15 miles per hour. I'm going to pick a different graphic really here. We're going to give you a full 24-hour look on what we're seeing. We're not expecting any particularly gusty winds. And as we get into the morning time, we are going to see some stronger winds come through with the system, but things really calm down as we get later into the evening. This is when the system actually moves out of the way. So I would say expect winds anywhere from about 10 to 15 miles per hour, and that is going to have an extra effect on how you feel when you step out of the house. So temperature is going to be sitting in the middle 40s. Make sure you are bundling up, staying careful. And if you're in an area with the snow, especially make sure you're bundling up. You've got the hat, the gloves, and all of those things to make sure that you are prepared for the cold. I'm going to make sure one more time that I'm not missing any new questions. Let's see. Do I think we'll get snow before spring? I want to be hopeful, but based on the winter we've had so far, I'm kind of thinking it's looking unlikely. It would be fun to get about one more good snow event, especially because the valley has been missing out this time around. But because temperatures have been so warm and continue to trend warm for the month of February and even for the season, it's kind of not really looking up in terms of whether we're going to see snow or not. But nothing is for certain. We all know that Mother Nature is a beast of her own. She's going to do what she wants. And if she wants us to have some snow, then that is what we'll get. But if there aren't any other questions that are very pressing, I'll run through the Futurecast in the mornings one more time and then show you some of that snowfall to give you the totals before we go ahead and wrap things up. So here's a look again at the watches and warnings that we have going through the area. There's a winter weather advisory starting at 7 a.m. in the morning. It got pushed back. So that's going to be starting at 7 a.m. for those of you in Kentucky and southwestern Virginia. Those of you in the winter storm warning, basically everywhere along the foothills and mountains getting into North Carolina, the winter storm warning starts at midnight tonight and goes until midnight tomorrow night. And so that's going to be because they're already higher in elevation. They have the possibility and likely already are seeing some of that ice and some of that snow, and that will continue as we get into the nighttime. So let's run through the Futurecast one more time. As of right now, we're seeing some rain start to encroach upon the area. A little bit of ice and snow happening as you get into the mountains on the North Carolina side, but it's going to continue to rise up and get closer as we get over tonight. But it's going to stay a bit on the lighter side. Things don't really pick up until we get into the early hours of Saturday. I talked about that counterclockwise rotation. You can see that really starting as the system tracks to our south and we get closer to the low pressure system. We see that rotation get a bit stronger, and when you wake up in the morning, there is going to be more widespread and moderate rain happening through. You get into upper East Tennessee, down into the valley, you see a lot of these oranges and yellows. That is going to be some heavier rain that's going to be rolling through the area. And then on either side of the valley, we see some of that ice and snow right here along the mountains, again getting into North Carolina, and as well over here in the plateau, looking like a bit of Cumberland County and further south. That's where that possibility is going to be happening. It's just going to depend on temperatures and what the vertical profile looks like, whether we have that cold air and not quite as dry air going from top to bottom. So we continue into noon. Things are still on the heavier side, but you see some of that rain and snow is starting to move out of the area. We just are starting to see some clearing as you get west of Cumberland County, and then the valley still seeing this fairly heavy rain, and the mountains are actually really picking up as they're on the bottom side of this system as it moves through. So you can see snow along the whole border, along the entirety of the mountains, and then you see some of that ice and wintry mix as you get closer to kind of the rain snow line getting further down into the foothills in the valley. But a couple hours later, 3 p.m., a lot of that rain has moved out of the way. The plateau and western parts of the valley are starting to see some clearing. Over here on the eastern side of the valley, getting to upper East Tennessee and the mountains, still seeing some of that rain. And we continue a bit further. 6 o'clock, most of it is gone. The system has moved on its way up the eastern seaboard. We're seeing a little bit of rain here in Greenville and Newport, and some of that rain and snow still surviving. Then it moves out of the way as we get into Sunday night, and Monday morning continues to be a clear one. Temperatures really take a jump on Monday as well, so it's going to be a much nicer day. Now, in terms of snowfall, again, we stay pretty calm until we get into the late night hours. We hit about 7 o'clock and things really start to blow up. anywhere from 3 to 8 inches if you're in these higher elevations over 3,000 feet. If you're over here on the plateau, you get upwards of 2,000 feet. You could be seeing anywhere from a trace to 2 inches of snow. And we're really going to see that change over again as we get into the morning when those colder temperatures really set in. We see the coldest temperatures of the day during the morning because we get through the entire night, we lose all of that heat, and we even see a little bit of some clearer skies. That's when that's really going to see that cold kick in. We lose all of the heat, and then the snow is going to be possible from top to bottom. Then it makes it all the way down. So again, upwards from a trace to 2 inches as you get into a little bit of Morgan County, Cumberland County, and further down into Bledsoe as well. A little bit looks like of Ray County as well. And then here in the mountains, we've got Monroe, we've got Blount, we've got Sevier, Cock, and Hamlin counties. All of you guys along the foothills right here on the edge are going to be likely to see some of that snow. But I'll finish things up with the 7-day really quick just to give you a look at what's going on with everything forward from this Sunday. Again, going to be that day of that rain and snow lasting for most of the sunlight hours before things calm down at night. We get into the beginning of the week. Temperatures take a jump back into the 50s, even the 60s, as we get into the middle of the week, possibly getting near 70 degrees by the time we hit Thursday. But we are going to possibly see some rain come into the area as soon as Tuesday night. So if you got some Valentine's dinner plans, maybe take a rain jacket just in case, because it could be raining by the time you're on your way back out of the restaurant or headed back home. We get to the end of the week, we see probably another cold front coming along with this rain on Thursday. Temperatures drop back down into the 40s by the time we get to next weekend. I'll take one last look for some questions, see if I didn't miss anybody. Is in Tennessee, anything can happen? Any snow in Johnson City? We're going to run back to this graphic one more time. And then again, we see that that snow really start to pick up as we get into the early morning hours of your Sunday. So again, somebody asked about Kodak. Kodak is going to be kind of along that line, but most likely getting just rain this time around. They're a lot further they're a lot further east in the kind of getting closer to the mountains, but not quite there. As you get further into the county, you kind of see Pigeon Forge. It's just in that area. They are going to be seeing a lot of that rain. So just a little bit further north, unfortunately, you guys are most likely going to just be seeing rain this time around. Again, you could see a couple of flakes as you get over the nighttime, but it's not going to be those high accumulations like you see further to your south as you get down into the mountains. Somebody asked about Troy, North Carolina. You guys are more likely to be seeing some of that snow because much of that area, including Asheville, including Troy, is within the mountains. The 3 to 8 inches is kind of for those higher elevations. You guys could likely be seeing a little bit less if you're down in that area. And yes, we are not expecting much in the valley in terms of snowfall. You might see a couple flakes, but we're not going to be seeing snow accumulation. Double checking one more time. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so it seems like I've answered everything so far. I think we're just going to end things on this snowfall forecast since that's likely the big thing that everybody wants to know. When this rain does start, I'm going to be here through the end of the night, so I'll post a couple radars to keep you guys abreast of what's going on. Make sure you tune in the morning time when things get messy, because that's when Kaylee will be around and she'll be able to help you out and tell you everything you need to know. So make sure you stay tuned with us here at 10 News and make sure you stay safe in these conditions no matter where in East Tennessee you are. Rain or snow, it can all get dangerous when you're out there on the roads. So make sure you stay safe, and I'll see you in a couple hours on Fox 43 at 10.